Hello, Jen here with my first challenge for you guys for the Love is in the Air crop. This is the sketch challenge. And so you just saw me show the sketch that I created for you for this challenge. It's exclusive to this crop, so you guys are the first ones to see it and get to use it. And hopefully it will inspire some creativity for you. If you don't know what the Love is in the Air crop is, you need to hop over to Facebook and get into the Shotz paper crafting Facebook group. That's where the crop is being held. We've got this going on from February 14th all the way through to the 17th. So it's a 4-day crop with some challenges happening every day. And so the rules are in the group, and you can go ahead and find the albums in there for each of the different challenges, and that's also where you can share your projects and maybe win a prize. So hop over to that group, join, and then you can definitely participate in the crop. And if you guys have been in the group for a while, but you haven't made it over to my channel yet, thank you so much for popping in and saying hello. My name is Jen and I'm on the design team, and this is my YouTube channel where I like to create process videos and tutorials and all that fun stuff and show you what I'm creating. You can also find me on Instagram, where I will share my layouts with you. I also share monthly sketches that you are welcome to use, and that is ksmom_scrapbooking. All the links for everything will be in the description box below, so that's where you want to check out the link to the Facebook group as well if you're not part of that group. But yeah, welcome. Thank you so much for joining. So the sketch that I created for this hop, I created this with a couple things in mind. I created this thinking that you could easily use this sketch, or at least the general idea of this sketch, to create a layout or create a card, or use it in smaller than 12 by 12 formats if you are a scrapbooker who prefers a smaller format, 6 by 8 or whatever size you might work with. I think like a nice grid pattern can work for just about any size, but you can definitely do it on a card too if you wanted to. I threw tons of hearts on there because this is the Love is in the Air crop. And, you know, I wanted to really run with that motif. It's definitely a more is more sketch. And so I hope that encourages you to maybe play with layers and textures and patterns, putting lots of patterns in there. I also thought this sketch works really good for scraps if you have smaller pieces of paper that you can cut some hearts out of. If you have some of those leftover bits of paper that are the right size, you can cut strips like I'm doing here to create that grid pattern. You could also use washi tape or ribbon. There's lots of opportunities to pick different things that you can use to make your grid pattern. It's also a good opportunity if you like to grab branding strips and you kind of, have a building stash of branding strips. You could definitely grab those and make those work as your grid pattern. So, a few things that I was thinking about while putting this sketch together. And this is actually my first time creating with this sketch too. Sometimes I make sketches based off of layouts because I liked the way a layout turned out. And so I quickly run and turn it into a sketch so that I can recreate that again if I want to. And sometimes I just have the idea for the sketch and I haven't actually created a layout from it before. So that's the case with this one. I'm going ahead and creating this layout based off of the sketch for the very first time. And so one thing that I really always like to remind people when you're using a sketch is that sketch is just the jumping off point. So if you start working with it and for whatever reason you're noticing the pictures you have or the stash you're using, the different products you're pulling out, they just aren't working the way that the sketch looks like you want them to work, that's totally okay. The idea of this sketch is to inspire more ideas for you. So look at that sketch, find the elements in the sketch that are really kind of drawing your attention, the things that are making you go, ooh, I want to try that. And that's what you roll with. Your project does not have to look at all like this sketch. It does not have to look at all like my layout will eventually look, or like anybody else's project. It's completely yours. The sketch is really just that jumping off point to hopefully give you a little bit of boost of creativity, and then you can kind of roll with it. So whatever works best for you, if you want to follow it precisely, or if you go off, on some wild adventure with your project and it looks totally different, that's completely okay. For this challenge, you use the sketch in whatever way works best for you. And you will quickly see that my layout won't actually look exactly like the sketch, because I'm creating with products that I didn't necessarily have in mind when I created that sketch. And so I'm just going to make them work for me. So I started with my background. I chose to do a white background. I felt like it brightened up all of these reds and pinks really nicely. A black background would have worked well here too, because I think that would have made the colors pop quite a bit. But I kind of liked the lightness of the white background because my photos were all taken inside in a darker restaurant. And so because they were a little dark, I felt like they needed to be lightened up a bit. And so I chose that white instead of dark background. I also decided, because I'm not using branding strips, I was cutting some of my own strips of paper, that I'm only going to go with 2 strips in each little section rather than the 3. So that's definitely another place where you could decide to kind of play with it. If you want to add 4, or if you want to do only 1, or if you want to, do exactly like the sketch, you can definitely do that. It's all going to depend on the colors you pick and the patterns you pick and how well they go together. So do what you think kind of looks right to your eye. And so what I did is I cut down my inside paper. It's a pattern paper, and so I think that also was one of the reasons I decided to only go with the 2 strips, because it's pattern on top of pattern on top of pattern, and it can get busy. And for me personally, I don't love the color red, and I really struggle to use the color red. And so just the fact that everything was kind of reddish, I already felt a little bit overwhelmed. I know that's silly to say, but my eye was just like, oh, so much red. And so I really don't think it needed to have another pattern or another strip in all of those rows and columns. I think if I had gone for that, I probably would have picked a solid. So maybe that would have been an opportunity to bring in like a nice thin black strip going in all directions. That would definitely be something that you could do too if you needed to kind of like tone it down, is to bring in some sort of grounding color. So to me, grounding colors would be like white, black, gray, craft, that kind of thing. So yeah, and then so now you see, once I have that pattern down and I'm pulling up my photos, and I was sort of trying to draw on the photo with my fingers, and then I think with this one you'll even see me flip it around and look with some light shining through on the back to see if I could get a heart shape. Yeah, I just do it here, and I decided none of these photos are going to work really well to be cut down into the shape of a heart. I think, yep, I even put another heart on there to kind of see if I could do it without losing too much of the detail. And I decided it wasn't going to work. I don't want to cut any of these down. And so I'm going to change up the design. I'm going to make it work with my own stuff and my own pictures. I definitely wanted to have 3 photos in there. It's a big challenge for me to do multi-photo layouts. I tend to do only single photo layouts. So whenever I have an opportunity to get a few more pictures on there, I really like to push myself to do that. So I didn't want to just get rid of 2 of the pictures or, change it up that way. And so I'm just going to change the design to make them work with my pictures. And what I decided is, since I wasn't putting pictures on those large wooden hearts, that those would be a good place to go ahead and do some embellishing. I liked the idea of those wooden hearts. Those come from Dollar Tree, and they're just those blank wooden ornaments that you can get. But I kind of liked the idea. I thought that they would give a little bit of dimension, and they might be a nice mat to put my photos on. When I realized that my pictures weren't going to actually fit on them properly, I wanted to keep that element because it definitely is a place that gives your eye a bit of a break. They are a solid color, and the way that the heart shape is, it definitely breaks up all of those strips that you see. And so I wanted to keep those and kind of turned those into a spot to have a little bit of embellishment. And then my pictures could go diagonally the other way, which worked out really good because I've got the 2 pictures that are portrait and that 1 picture that is landscape, and it kind of pops right there in the middle and works out really good. I do definitely feel like this is the way that like diagonal goes. It definitely shows that my lines were not measured. And so if you're seeing that and that is something that bugs you, please know you can absolutely use a ruler and make your strips nice and even and measure out how you want them to go. I am not a measurer. I don't tend to pull out my ruler. I like to eyeball things, and so that's what I'm usually always going to do. But you could see how if I just left the layout with the photos and not much extra embellishment, you would definitely be able to tell that I hadn't measured. And again, I'm totally fine with that. But if that's throwing you off, please go ahead and measure. But my solution for that sometimes is just to go ahead and make everything slightly wonky and not measure anything. So it looks very intentional and it looks purposeful. And then because this is a more is more kind of sketch, I'm just going to throw a bunch of stuff at it. And since it's all hearts, I decided to go ahead and add in as many little hearts as I possibly can. So I've got some smaller wood veneer hearts that I got from Dollarama, I think those ones are. A lot of my occasion stuff like this comes from places like Dollarama because you pop in there and you just go down that holiday aisle, and they always have little packs of stuff, and I like that. It's not very expensive and you can just use a few of them, and then whatever I have left over, my nieces love to use, my kids love to use them. So, they're just kind of those fun, different elements. And so that's where all of those wooden hearts came from, those larger ones, and then the 2 kind of smaller ones that you see on the right and left hand side. I have some felt that was also in my Valentine's stash, and I cannot remember if that came from a scrapbooking manufacturer or if I got that also at Dollarama or Dollar Tree, but I threw some felt in there just to have a little bit of texture. I am following the bingo challenge, which has not been announced yet, but you guys are getting a little sneak peek of it. And one of the boxes that I have to check to get a bingo is to use the word love in the title. So that felt had the word love in it. So I went ahead and threw that on there. And I do like the idea, especially in a grid pattern, if you're going to put something on your page, to repeat it in some way, because your grid is repetitive, and so you want to kind of repeat things. So you'll notice here that the way that I like to repeat is either to have things mirrored. So like these hearts here are mirrored. So the pink ones are on the outside, and then the red ones are going to be on the inside, and they're kind of mirrored. And I am just using a little scrap of paper there to get them mostly even. I'm not overly concerned that they're exactly even, but mostly even, so that your eye can see that they're balanced. And then with the felt, I have that love up on the top heart. I brought that felt, kind of lacy felt heart, which came in the same pack, down to the bottom. So now I have that texture in both places. I have a sticker in both of those hearts as well. And here I have this exo element, which kind of matches the heart down at the bottom that has two stickers on it. So everything, the elements don't have to be exact, but I feel like you want to have something that's repeating with them. So sticker with sticker, felt with felt, wood with wood, however you want to do it, or a visual triangle, that also works well. But in the case of a grid, sometimes the even is what makes things feel more balanced, rather than that odd number and like a visual triangle. So again, this is where your stash and your pictures and, you know, the way that you're putting together your grid is going to differ just based on what you have. So work with it, go with it. And then here again, I'm going to do kind of a diagonal. I felt like I needed something around that center photo. And so I decided to go with felt and wood. So I'm actually carrying a diagonal that goes from the top left-hand corner down to the bottom right-hand corner, where you have the wood veneer hearts and you have felt, and then also the opposite corner to corner is your three pictures. So again, those little bits of repetition that really help in a grid layout where everything's kind of lined up. So yeah, it's really just about playing around and getting those patterns to match, but honestly, you can do whatever feels good for you. So whether it's paper or washi, it's totally up to you. I cannot wait to see what you guys do. So my challenge for this is to go ahead and use my sketch for a layout, for a card, whatever project you want to do. Make sure to get it into the album on the Facebook group. And that is it for me. I'm just going to finish this off with a little splatter of some Tim Holtz spritz, the gold one, which is so gorgeous, and some sequins. And I am done for this challenge. Thank you so much for joining me. If you haven't already, click subscribe, go follow me on Instagram, and I will be back again for the next challenge tomorrow. So until then, happy scrapping. Enjoy the crop, everyone. Bye.
Bye. Thanks to me. To my channel.